I just might keep y'all in the dark and let y'all know it and wait till after the child is born.
What?
The internet was in total chaos and dismay for the past few days, ever since quite possibly the most infamous person online announced that they may be having a child, or at least that's what everybody thought, including myself until things got cleared up, which we're going to go over towards the end of this video.
When the child is actually coming into play, or somewhere around that point.
But hearing all of this reminded me that I've never given a proper update to the entire Chris Chan story, and things have gotten much stranger since the last time I've discussed this person.
Yeah, those are trolls. They're following me from the internet. Do not report them. I'm not by swap with Sanchu. He's back in his body. We've been back in our respective bodies since February 2021. But I did nothing wrong, and only the certain individuals online, they had wrongfully manipulated and controlled me and my own narrative, but no more. I take control of my own narrative from now on, not you. Because Jesus Christ of Nazareth was the avatar of all existence, and I am the one avatar of all existence.
Christine Chandler, more popularly known as Chris Chan, holds one of the darkest stories on the internet. A story that seems to be endless. Just when everybody thinks it's over, things take a left turn into the wild. You may remember me discussing Chris Chan before, but if you have no idea who this person is, I recommend that you sit down for this one because this topic is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, obviously, I'm never gonna propose marriage to her at all because we're already mother and daughter. You know, they say there's no stronger bond than a mother and her daughter.
Chris Chan, who is both autistic and transgender, rose to fame many, many years ago as internet trolls discovered her content to be entertaining for all of the wrong reasons. The biggest focus surrounded her Sonichu comics. Sonichu is a hybrid of Sonic the Hedgehog and Pikachu. If you see photos or videos of Chris Chan, there is a high chance that you may come across this medallion, which now has its own lore of being a cursed object. I'm not kidding, by the way. People genuinely believe this to be a cursed item that will ruin your life if you wear it, and I swear if anything comes out of this entire situation, I hope it's that hundreds of years from now, this medallion will live on and become a treasured historical artifact. But as I was saying, internet trolls were infatuated with Chris Chan and her comics for years, which eventually turned into a larger public interest. Some would even create YouTube channels dedicated to documenting every move of Chris Chan's life, one channel being Gino Samuel 2, which currently has 89 videos in a playlist titled Chris Chan, A Comprehensive History. I'll leave their channel link below if you'd like to take about a month to learn about every detail of Chris Chan's lore, because there are tons of details. On top of having a high interest in what Chris Chan has posted, throughout the years, trolls wouldn't just watch Chris Chan online, but would also mess with her as well. A lot of trolls would prank Chris Chan in some very mean-spirited ways, including ruining some of her items and blatant harassment. These pranks by trolls, for a lack of a better term, just came across as cruel back in the day. Back then it came across as people just bullying an autistic person rather than bringing any justice or solution to the issues surrounding Chris Chan, which always makes me wonder if maybe more support was given instead of bullying back then, if things would be different for Chris Chan today. Now, this obviously doesn't excuse anything that she has done over the years, because she has done horrible, inexcusable things. Because of the horrible things she has done in more recent years, it's hard to feel bad for all of the things that have happened, but looking at this entire situation as a whole is just depressing, to be completely honest. Even in the early days of Chris Chan's internet fame, she was not innocent by any means. One example is when Chris Chan was in college, prior to her transition, she put up flyers stating 21 single white male, seeking 18 to 21 single female companion. If any men read the sign, mind your business. Now, because of the poor quality, there is a little bit more written in between these bold letters, but it's hard to deconstruct. During this time, a woman named Mary Lee Walsh, in charge of student services, instructed Chris to take down the flyers as they went against campus rules, and Chris Chan did not react to this well. In retaliation, Chris Chan decided to characterize Mary Lee Walsh in her Sonichu comic series. One snippet from this comic states, "My fellow villain brethren, the time has risen for a divine retribution against Christian Weston Chandler. Yes, the autistic virgin has fallen into another dimension. We can seize the moment after extensive plotting and take down all that which he has protected." You can see that this was not only depicting her negatively as she was made out to be this maniacal villain, but this also would be considered harassment. And the thing is that anyone else who would cross Chris Chan's path in a negative way would receive similar treatments. Sometimes comics would even get or lives of characters depicting real people would end. But even worse, Chris Chan, who at this time didn't have a huge social life, did have one friend who was a girl. This friendship, from what I understand, was platonic, but Chris Chan developed feelings for this girl and took things way too far by drawing a very inappropriate image of her and posting it in forums to prove that Chris Chan wasn't gay. This caused the friend to find out about the drawing, and Chris Chan told her, "I had to take my frustrations out with this drawing because if I hadn't, I don't know what I would have done," which left horrific implications that unfortunately foreshadow something even worse, which again, if you know, you know, if you don't, we're going to get into in a moment. But we're still making our way through the timeline here. After Chris Chan's father passed away in 2011, she would put him in the Sonichu comic, which was a huge indicator of these comics not just being a coping mechanism, but a root of her delusions. As time went on, Chris Chan would explain her beliefs that any cartoon or animated creation exists in reality but is just in another dimension. Additionally, Chris Chan believes that one day the cartoon dimension and our dimension will merge and that human beings will coexist with cartoon characters.
You have everybody there. You have Superman, you have Mickey Mouse, you have Iron Man, you have Darkwing Duck, you have the Infinite Possibilities. You even have Ratchet and Clank. You have the Super Mario Brothers, and you have Sonic. You have Link. You have everybody.
Chris Chan also believes to have a second self in the cartoon dimension who is female, which, if I am correct, is what led Chris Chan's transition in what she would consider to be our dimension. It is very clear that Chris Chan hasn't been and still doesn't seem to be mentally well. I'm not a medical or mental health professional, but it's clear that she displays a severe lack of stability.
The merge is happening. It's in progress. The completion will happen shortly from now. I am doing that. I'm doing that. Just I haven't really given it further conscious thought. I've been so busy with a lot of other things. I mean, shoot. You think this was as easy back in Jerusalem when I was Jesus Christ? Way back when? No, it's just hard. It was hard to focus and think, especially when finding myself and all that. Then everything else that goes on outside that, and all throughout the multitude of lives I had since then.
And this is where things are going to take a dark turn. I'm sure most of you already know where this is going, and this is your heads up that things are going to get really unsettling really fast. In 2021, Chris Chan lived with her then elderly mother, Barbra. As Barbra grew older, she developed dementia, and would essentially begin decomposing in the house that they lived in together. The dementia was so bad that in many of Chris Chan's videos, it seemed that Barbra didn't even know what was going on, could barely make coherent sentences, and seemed entirely reliant on other people to care for her. It's clear that she didn't seem capable of taking care of herself or even seemed aware of her surroundings. With that being said, due to Chris Chan living with her, it's very likely that she depended on Chris Chan to be her caretaker, who again, wasn't the most stable person and probably shouldn't have been solely responsible for Barbra in the first place, and for reasons which I'm going to get into now, should probably not have been near Barbra at all. On July 30th, 2021, a recorded phone call and tons of screenshots were leaked online by someone who is believed to be an infamous internet troll known as Isabella Jenke. I did a full video on Isabella Jenke in the past, which will be linked in the description below. And not to derail the situation here, but that girl is absolutely terrifying. She may be just as bad, if not worse, than Chris Chan herself. But I digress. It's claimed that these leaks are conversations with Chris Chan, and in these conversations, Chris Chan allegedly admitted in graphic detail to essaying her mother Barbra. This is just a short clip of a longer call to give you basic information without being too graphic.
I didn't even think that, I knew that you guys had a good relationship, but I always thought, because I'm not huge on Christery and, you know, whatever, I just thought that the whole Sonichu franchise was very interesting, and that's how I got into you when I was younger, right? But I didn't have any idea that Barbra was, that Barbra and you had that sort of relationship. I never got any of those vibes. But how did you approach her?
I approached her with care and caution. It was a time approach. So I just gave her comfort and talked with her, and we just branched out slow and steady. And then I encouraged her positively. Let her make the first move. She wanted to do it. And
she did? Really? She made the first move?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow, Barbra. How did she do it, if you don't mind me asking? What was the first move?
I don't remember exactly. Well, that was her first move, but my approach was... I forgot exactly what terminology and approach I used, but I approached with care and caution.
That's good.
And I was direct and upfront with her for the most part.
That's good. And how did she respond when you approached her? What'd she say?
I don't remember exactly what she said, but I think she was partially confused at one point, but then she came around, obviously, with more approaching than I was doing with her along the way.
Right. So she got into it. How was the first kiss? You kissed her? How did that feel? Having known this woman for your whole life, how did that feel?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was simple lip to lip kiss contact, but yeah, it was actually good and it felt right.
When did you start having feelings for Barbra?
Obviously, for a long time. I mean, I remember even mentioning some time ago in one of my videos that I even had dreams where I had sex with her, obviously.
Really?
So,
probably personally, you have to answer, but how is this?
I'd say it was satisfactory. It took a while. It took a few tries to...
It took a few tries, yeah. She is older.
And plus, also, she's very understanding about the whole thing as well. I was direct with her, still direct and honest with her. I made sure that obviously, I'm never going to propose marriage to her at all because we're already mom.
Yeah, mother and daughter. You know, they say there's no stronger bond than a mother and her daughter.
We've been doing it every third night, and the first night being on June 27th.
Oh, you have a routine?
Yeah.
Well, at least you have a stable relationship, because you know it's not going to end. Like, if anything happened, you'd still be mother and daughter. It's not going to be explosive breakup, right?
I also won't be reading every text as they are so graphic and disturbing, but one that stuck out the most to me is this. Just going ahead and sharing this with you. Fresh experience. On the Strictly Confidential, just between you and I. So yes, Barb and I just had another romp in the hay and an extensive cuddle. Chris Chan had also admitted to her mother having memory issues in text, which would mean that Chris Chan knew Barbra had some cognitive issues and that it's very, very, very unlikely that Barbra could even consent to any of this. She has had memory problems at the time beforehand, yes, but she is being better stimulated in her mind and soul, and it really shows. Her mental processing speed is even going back up. There are no words to explain how gut-wrenching it is to read this and how disturbing this entire situation is. Horrific can't even begin to fully describe it. But there is something that I was unaware of while making my previous video a few years ago, however, which was that back in 2016, Chris Chan had made a Facebook post discussing an article of a mother and a son facing potential jail time for incest. Part of this Facebook post made by Chris Chan defending the mother and son stated, "Who among everyone in this world has not had a dream of having S with one of their parents? Never acting on them ever, I myself did have dreams of having S with my mother. Plus, this offers a chance of better teaching the child on how to better satisfy their eventual partners. The schools can only teach from books, not so much practice, and nobody wants to end up being a 20 or 30 plus year old. I know, that is a huge, enduring pain. Unless the S Act was abusive, hurtful, or would result in an unwanted birth, or a physical or mentally challenged child, I would not judge or persecute the parent and the child. I would encourage the child to socialize more, maybe make it easier for the child to meet more people his or her age. Do not send the mother and son to jail." Reading this leaves a twist in my stomach, because if anybody who knew Chris Chan during this time had any hindsight, would would clearly know that this could have been prevented in some way. But unfortunately, things don't end here. In fact, for many people, this was just their introduction to the Chris Chan saga. At some point, Barbra had been taken to the hospital for evaluation, and during this time, Chris Chan was forbidden to have any contact with Barbra and was not allowed to stay in the same home. This did not stop her from allegedly taking $750 from her mother's bank account, however. Afterwards, Chris Chan fled to a motel for a few days. And just days after this entire situation had gone viral online, police were notified of this situation and Chris Chan had been arrested at the motel that she was staying at. Now, this is where my last video from 2021 ended, but since then, police body cam footage was finally released, showcasing an entirely new perspective on how this arrest went down. But before we continue, being a victim of a very serious injury isn't just a painful experience, but a very stressful one. For example, a teacher was on her way home from work as she was getting off of a highway and heading towards a stoplight. That's when her car was rear-ended by a distracted driver, causing 2 serious injuries, one between her pelvis and her spine, and the other in her neck. These injuries caused issues with stability and pain management and ultimately affected her ability to continue doing her job. When fighting for compensation, she was originally offered $200,000 for her life-altering injuries. But with Morgan & Morgan fighting for her, the case went to trial and they ended up obtaining $2.6 million. If you've ever gotten into an accident, your injury could potentially be worth millions. And Morgan & Morgan has your back if you become their client. While dealing with cases, Morgan & Morgan doesn't just settle for lowball offers. Morgan & Morgan has achieved significant verdicts for victims with life-altering injuries, including over $12 million in Florida, which is 34 times the highest insurance offer, and $26 million in Philly, which is 40 times the highest insurance offer. Being America's largest injury law firm, Morgan & Morgan has over 1,000 lawyers working across all 50 states. And the best part is, the fee is completely free unless you win your case, meaning no expensive upfront charges coming out of your pocket. Like I've said, if you've ever gotten seriously hurt, your case could be worth millions. And you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. It's so easy to do. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/Mimi. You can find the link in the description below. Thank you so much to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring yet another video on today's channel, and with that being said, let's get back into today's topic. The footage runs about 18 minutes long and can be found in full on EWU Bodycam's YouTube channel. I'll link that video in the description below as well. I'm only going to be showing a few clips here to demonstrate the severity of Chris Chan's mental state and to also show how bizarre this entire situation had become. Immediately, she starts going on about fictional characters from her Sonichu series.
Okay, well, listen, I will comply, but I'd like to clear up I'd like to come back to my things.
We'll get that all straight. Yeah, we'll get it all straight.
And what about my van? And I'd like to put my shoes on, please.
Yeah, sure, of course. We'll get there.
Okay, I can slip into my shoes. Magic Chan, Chriselle, Savannah.
If I'm being honest, it actually sounds like she's trying to make the furniture levitate, but these are just names of characters she's created.
Magic Chan, Chriselle, Savannah.
Now, at some point, the officers ask Chris if she's alone in the motel, and she goes on about how interdimensional beings are accompanying her in her motel room.
Is there anyone else in the room with you? Is there anybody else in the room?
Spirit, well, interdimensionally, you can't tangibly see them.
A physical person. Is there a physical person in the room with you?
Originating from this universe? No.
Okay, good.
During all of this, people began to show up outside of the motel, and officers asked Chris if she was expecting any friends, which she replies no. After a while, this caused some concern for the police.
Are you waiting for somebody to come to your room or something?
No, I was not. I was only waiting for the deputy that I talked with earlier today from the sheriff's office in Rutgersville.
Okay. All right. You're not waiting for like anybody else though? Any friends or anything?
I have nobody else.
The only reason I'm asking you is because there's a car up there and there's 2 gentlemen staring at us.
Really?
Yeah.
That's curious.
I'm just asking. I don't want anyone rolling up on me.
It wasn't until later that they understood that Chris Chan is an infamous internet personality that basically had her own small paparazzi troll group, for a lack of a better term, that found out she was getting arrested. To be fair though, Chris Chan did try to warn them that she is in fact an infamous internet personality.
Okay, well, I would say question them because I am famous and infamous on the internet, so they may be video recording.
Cool.
But to be fair to the police, she also told them that there are interdimensional beings in her motel room, and she also rambled on about other incoherent things, so obviously the officers didn't take her seriously at first.
I have nothing.
It's got a very military style haircut. I wonder if it's Greene County.
Baby blue Yaris.
Maybe it's a rental.
Hey, it's good.
That would be something Greene County.
I mean, I know there's a lot of agencies that use rentals for surveillance. I mean, like staring.
Yeah, I know. That's why I asked her. Since he's there all the time. It's still like right as we walk up. I didn't see him there before.
Throughout all of this, there have been other interesting clips, such as police trying to inform her that she won't be allowed to wear any jewelry that isn't religious, such as a cross, for example, which of course, duh, the Sonichu medallion is her religion. No, but seriously, she says the Sonichu medallion is her religion and is her cross.
So do you want to take your necklaces off and stuff like that, or?
You're gonna take them off when you get.
Yeah, you gotta take them off when you get to the jail.
Okay, but the
Since they're not, the only thing they will allow are like crosses for like religion.
Okay, well, if I may speak, the Sonichu shaped medallion, the big yellow thing at the bottom there, that is my cross. So
Okay, I don't know if they'll allow that one.
Yeah.
it protects me greatly. So that I am willing to take off the other two, but I really need the medallion.
And if that wasn't wild enough, she also claimed that on the opposite side of the universe veil, her husband Maji-chan Sonichu was punching the officers in the legs to let them know that he was present.
By the way, if any of y'all has been feeling a punch-like sensation on your leg, that is my husband, Maji-chan Sonichu, right on the opposite side of the universe veil. He's punching you all each, just a gentle punch, but you know he is here.
Okay.
Did you feel like he punched you first?
Yeah, so I didn't, but you know.
I want to make sarcastic comments about how absurd this all is, but honestly, this is just sad. She is so far gone at this point, and we'll see later that this did in fact affect this entire legal case. After all of this, officers began to escort Chris Chan to the police cruiser. As they walked her out, more people gathered outside of the motel, which is when the officers finally started to realize and believe that Chris Chan really was infamous online.
You don't know any of these people?
I do not know those people, and Yeah, those are trolls. They're following me from the internet. Do not report this. See?
Don't.
Followers.
I think that's real.
Oh my God, what is this?
What's up, man?
What is happening right now?
As she got into the squad car, she explains her delusions even further and claims that we are on the thread of the merge between dimensions.
Essentially, I am a decent and good individual. I believe in everything that is right and positive, and I am literally a goddess, and that will be proven in the near days to come as we are on the completion of the dimension merge, where the universe half that was divided in 1380s by order of King Arthur. He ordered Merlin and two other magicians to remove and banish all dragons, unicorns, and other quote-unquote mythical creatures and overpowered individuals. And thus we were separated, transported into from what was originally called Universe 1C211987.
Once it came down to the court hearings, Chris Chan was facing incest charges, but on August 8th, 2023, these charges were dismissed due to her lawyer filing an autism disorder deferred disposition. During the time that Chris Chan spent in jail, she would send letters to people where she would make even more delusional statements. One letter stated, "Firstly and vitally, it should be made obvious and clear that aside from Andy Warhol, my life events at present and so far can directly be compared and matched with that which have been chronicled of none other than Jesus Christ of Nazareth himself in any Holy Bible. Also, feel free to take any unaltered original photograph of my body's face and neck and shoulder and chest area where I was not wearing glasses. Then alter the photo to show a naturally growing brown beard, mustache, and sideburns. Now place that photo next to any image of Jesus off the cross. Compare, look deep into my eyes and the photograph and see for yourself."
Okay.
On October 16th, 2023, Chris Chan began uploading onto her YouTube channel for the first time since her arrest. The first video she uploaded was this.
Rocket, stupid, 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 lucid, stupid, big stupid is all your worth.
Now, to spare you your sanity, this goes on for nearly 10 minutes with a short break in between of Chris Chan stating this.
Yay and merrily to everyone. Welcome to this. That song you just heard, that was dedicated to all the lingering and lost toxic haters, fakers, and darkest sinners that came from the 1218 half of our earth that has been bugging us for the longest of time. And why are they still lingering? You're not supposed to be doing that. Come on, get out of the picture already. You're long gone. Anyway, yes. With the ultimate miracle chaos control, I ascend to make my return to the internet in all that is good and well-being. I am divine and connected to everything, and I know and not know at the same time, between the consciousness, the subconsciousness, and the unconsciousness. I know all, I see all, I foreknow all, I've been there, done that, everything. So now, with that, we're still amidst our dimension merge completion and a moment of futurast.
She has stated so many times that there is this dimensional merge that's going to happen. She thinks that she is Jesus and a goddess and believes that any cartoon character or fictional being is going to become real and merge with our world.
As you shall learn shortly enough with the events that happened back in late February 2006. But for now, we are on the road.
And then it goes right back into more of this.
On the road to the city of Quickville.
Again, this entire video was almost 10 minutes long, and it was insufferable. Another video, which was a total curveball, was uploaded titled, Setting the Record Straight. There was never any S involving me in 2021. In this video, Chris Chan claims that she is innocent from the crimes she was arrested over, and insisted that there was actually never any S between her and her mother, Barbra.
Hey everyone, this is Christine Chandler, Sanchi Prime here. And right now I'm going to set the record straight. So just so y'all know, straightforward and blunt to the point. The reason I went to jail, the charge I was charged with, I was innocent. There never, ever, 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 ever was any between Barbra and I, period. I was innocent. And Barbra was definitely not the perfect mother with me. There was not the perfect mother-daughter relationship there, period. Growing up, there was the time, even though there was the love and caring in there and throughout. But that was a whole different kettle of fish right there.
Chris Chan also claims that part of this was an attempt for Isabella Janke, the person we mentioned earlier who recorded the alleged phone call between the two of them, to try and get Chris Chan to end her own life.
But hey, you're never gonna make me commit, period. And that was the intention that Bella had in all her chopped and screwed up recordings with all the attention and manipulating me into that.
In this situation, a broken clock is right twice a day because going back to my older video on Isabella Janke, there has been a forum post discussing how Isabella Janke was allegedly trying to get Chris Chan to end her own life, or at least that's what was claimed on forums that were made about her, which I don't even know if they're still up in this current day. But this is where things start to fall apart. Chris claims that she lied to Isabella Janke during these texts and calls as a mean to try and troll her, for a lack of a better term, and that she was released from jail because she was found innocent in a court of law.
But hey, I foreknew she was going to do that. I tested her. At the time, I treated her like, just as a friend, to try to get her to be on the good side. But obviously she failed. One way or another, she would have got me into jail or tried to get me on the whole different. But hey, she failed. She didn't do that. I took the initiative in my own hands, so I let divine intervention and timing and everything Just let me go to jail, spend my time suffering and spending the time for your sins.
So before we continue, I guess we can say that it's not just alleged that this is Chris Chan in the recording, because she admits to being in this recording, but claims that what she was telling Isabella Jenke was just lies.
But I did nothing wrong, and only the certain individuals online, they had wrongfully manipulated and controlled me and my own narrative, but no more. I take control of my own narrative from now on, not you. Not you lot of haters and fakers. I am a much better individual than that. Y'all should have known better of me than that. That is enough with the mislabelings and the misconceptions. That's enough. And the whole lot of the set's commentary was me being misled by the suggestion of those individuals, especially those theoretical exes of mine. And I was proven innocent by court of law and released. Simple as that.
This isn't entirely true because, as we've gone over earlier, this case was actually dismissed due to Chris Chan's lawyer filing an autism disorder deferred disposition. In other words, to my understanding, they dismissed the case due to Chris Chan's autism spectrum disorder. I'm unsure if this is something that is possible in all 50 states, but this is something that can be done possibly in the state of Virginia, which is where this had taken place. I would like to assume that if what Chris Chan is saying here is true, that the dismissal would include some mention of inconclusive evidence, or better yet, that this wouldn't have even gone as far as it has legally if she had just told a lie to Isabella Jenke, considering that Barbra was sent to the hospital and that a lot has had to have happened between this getting out publicly and the arrest of Chris Chan, such as Chris Chan not being allowed to stay in her home and having to relocate and not being allowed near Barbra. Something doesn't add up here. So yeah, it does seem that at the very least, Chris Chan's explanation for the case's dismissal does not seem to line up with what has been reported online due to so many court documents being reported. On top of that, in the body cam footage, when they asked Chris Chan if she knew why she had a warrant, she said she understood the circumstances.
I guess, so the warrant itself is not a surprise. You know there was an investigation, all that.
Yes, there was an investigation. Yes, I am aware of the situation.
Okay.
And importantly, I mentioned earlier in this video, back in 2016, Chris Chan was already alluding to some creepy things involving Barbra. Lastly, the text messages between Chris Chan and Isabella Jenke were so graphically detailed that even if this was some sort of master trolling plan, which I don't understand what somebody would get out of it by trolling somebody like that, the things that were said were so vulgar and disturbing. That alone is enough for somebody to be investigated. But the fact that an investigation did take place tells me that this seems more than just Chris Chan lied to somebody to see if they would talk crap about them. With all of that being said, however, we do have it on record now that Chris Chan denies all of the accusations from 2021. So with all of the information provided online, contrasting with the statement that Chris Chan has provided, it's up to you on whether or not you believe her. But before you decide, allow me to add in one more small detail that I've discovered while searching through the Chris Chan wiki page. I actually stumbled upon this completely by accident when trying to look up information about the autism disorder deferred disposition, but there is a clip from one of Chris Chan's live streams where she is saying none of this took place during this timeline.
There's nothing to admit because it never happened in this it never happened in this timeline or in any local timeline, period. He does love me. I am not a horrible monster. What you saying I did never happened in this timeline. It never happened. I never happened. I'm not gonna respond to any more messages like that.
When saying something along the lines of during this timeline, as somebody like Chris Chan who believes that there are dimensional merges just around the corner, it starts to make sense as to why Chris Chan continuously says this never happened and that she's innocent. And it's actually really sad because if I'm correct on this, Chris Chan isn't exactly lying, at least not on purpose. She's living in another delusion to cope with the fact that this happened. I want to say though that this is just my opinion and assumptions I could be totally wrong and off the wall, but this is what I'm assuming based off of what Chris Chan has said in this video, what Chris Chan has said in several other videos showcasing how far gone she is mentally. Again, if we go back to what was covered earlier, after her father passed away, she added him into a comic to continue living on in the Sonichu dimension. So when you think of it like this, it actually makes more sense. It makes sense that she is denying what she did to Barbra because she's using this timeline situation as a way to live in a different reality. On top of that, it would also tie things in together as to how her explanation of being innocent doesn't line up with what the court said, how she was still arrested and in jail for quite some time, how she wasn't allowed to see Barbra before the arrest, how she knew about the circumstances of the warrant prior to the police showing up, and so much more. So if I'm correct on this, I want to point out that just because that would make this an extraordinarily sad situation, that doesn't mean that she's innocent. This does not excuse her from what she had done. And yes, it is my opinion that I believe this happened based off of everything I had just gone over. Also, I don't know where to add this in, so I'm just throwing it in here. There is another clip of Chris Chan talking about how people would cosplay as Barbra.
You know, speaking of cosplays, I'm just going to mention this right now. So I have heard that some individuals were cosplaying as Barbra, which I really do not like that at all. Period.
I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's really weird. Everything that happened in this situation is terrible and not okay, but that's still really weird and people shouldn't be doing that. Now let's get on to the most recent situation. On November 24th, 2024, another clip from Chris Chan had gone viral. This time it was from one of her live streams.
When the child is actually coming into play, or somewhere around that point.
Chris had supposedly been dating a Finnish woman who goes by the name Flutter. I say supposedly because she did say this.
So the girl y'all had seen me with in the past few weeks, I'll tell you a little something about her. She's a friend of mine, and I refer to her only as Flutter, because she likes Fluttershy, okay? I met her in Lynchburg. She got in touch with me while I was in jail. And we managed to meet. We managed to bond and connect with each other as friends. And she is literally 30 years old despite her physicality.
And during this most recent live stream, Chris Chan has mentioned that they are expecting a child. Or at least that's how most people, including myself admittedly, understood the situation from what was explained.
Or I just might keep y'all in the dark and let y'all know it and wait till after the child is born.
It seems, however, that there was a misunderstanding and that this was just a hypothetical situation. On November 27th, Chris Chan tweeted, "Okay, all of this is starting to get out of control now. There is no pregnancy. I was speaking hypothetically in that live stream. I am so surprised how even when I say something hypothetical, it gets misunderstood. Thank you for your kindness. I reiterate, there is no pregnancy with anyone. I never in a million years thought that I would be saying that something good came out of a Chris Chan situation, but this could only be seen as a good thing that Chris Chan is not reproducing." Now, before I continue with my thoughts, I am going to share a small snippet that I've recorded a few days ago before this clarification was made, because I had gone over a few possibilities that were thought of at that time that would explain any of this. Now, this can have a few interpretations according to people who have been following the Chris Chan lore for years. The first and most popular assumption is that Chris Chan had gotten her girlfriend, Flutter, pregnant, and that they are expecting a baby to be born come summer 2025. The second possibility is that Flutter is not pregnant right now, but instead, her and Chris Chan are planning to announce a pregnancy around summer of 2025, implying that they are actively trying to conceive a child. A final possibility, or so I thought prior to researching all of this, was that maybe all of this was just another delusion and that this was some kind of interdimensional character that Chris Chan was referring to. But no, Flutter is a real person. People have shared photos of her and Chris Chan together while online. I don't know how public Flutter's online platform is, so just in case I am censoring out her face, but she definitely exists, and oh my god, that means Chris Chan actually may be procreating. Will the baby's name be Sonichu? Like I said, that was a snippet from before this clarification was made, and luckily I was wrong on this situation, and this whole thing seemed to be a misunderstanding, at least according to this post on Chris Chan's Twitter. There is no way that Chris Chan would be equipped to take care of a child. If I were having a kid, first of all, why with Chris Chan? But secondly, there would be no way that that child would be left alone with Chris Chan, considering all of the things that have unfolded over the past few years. So this tweet is written as a hypothetical. I genuinely hope that they are not considering having a child together. That would be absolutely terrifying. There was still that comment made about something in the summertime, so I hope that they're not going to try to have a baby, and I hope that they don't plan to announce any type of pregnancy in the future. It's just not a good idea. But who knows what lies ahead with the story of Chris Chan, because it seems like every time that the story is about to end, something new happens. Curiosity does truly get the best of me sometimes though, because I cannot help but wonder that if they ever did have a baby one day, would they consider naming it Sonichu or Sonichu Jr.? And considering who we're talking about, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. I guess you could determine that for yourself, but it does seem like Chris Chan's life has been improving significantly compared to the earlier days and even just a few years ago in this entire Chris Chan saga. I would normally say something along the lines of maybe this is a sign that she is getting some help with her mental health, but I don't want to get my hopes up too high because it is Chris Chan and you never know what to expect, and it is obvious that there still does seem to be a lot of things that are wrong with her, and there are still things that I don't think will ever be fully repaired. If anything else happens, I'll be sure to let you know at some point in the future. Really quick unrelated thing, I am working on a huge Mr. Beast update that is going to be over an hour long at this point. I didn't want to post anything before saying that somewhere. I've been gone for a few weeks, and naturally as soon as I come back, there is so much to share. I'll have that video out as soon as possible.